in the lecture. Okay, so today we will continue our discussion about class, is it? So first, let's go to share screen. And I believe all of you still remember what we discussed in the last two lectures. We start to discuss the time class, is it? And a class always has two parts, is it instance variable and the instance method, just generally speaking. Is that we also discuss class variable and class method. The major difference is instance method doesn't have static keyword, but class method, they have the static keyword, is it? And for the class, we also did, generally speaking, regarding instance method, normally we gave their visibility as private, is it? And the method, we gave them their visibility as public. So that's the second thing. We also learned regarding the instance method, the category of instance method, is that we have constructor, is that, and generally we also provide accessors, the getter functions. We also provide mutators. So mutators are the set methods, is it? And regarding constructor, we also learned there are two types of constructor, what we learned from our last class. Default one is no parameter list. And the explicit one is it has a parameter. It has a parameter, etc. And regarding constructor, is a very special kind of instance method, is it? This instance doesn't have return type. And the name must be the same as your class name. So those are the features regarding constructor. And regarding the instance method, instance variable that we always give the visibility as private, we call that OOP feature as encapsulation, is it hiding information? And the other very important keyword I would recommend you also remember is method overloading. What does that mean? Is it? And what we learned is constructors, there's a different constructors, they are overloading. They belong to method overloading. Method overloading is in the program, you can define functions or methods with the same name, but the signature must be different. Okay, so this is called method overloading, because later on we will learn another keyword called override. Okay, so we need to know the difference between them. Okay, and then last class, we also started to learn to create objects. And who still remember which instance variable, not variable, which instance method is used to create an object? Who still remember that? Accessor, mutator, what kind? Yeah, constructor, very good. Okay, so always remember constructor. What is a keyword to invoke a constructor? Whenever we call new something, that will automatically invoke the corresponding constructor. Okay, remember the new. Okay, and also last class pardon me.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So when you're in the main and you do that like new, and that invokes the constructor.
Yeah.
What is that? When you invoke the constructor and it has, you pass through the two in the case of like our quiz or something like that, however many parameters is it that you have to pass through the constructor?
Yeah, that's the
Where did
explicit one. Let's let me scroll down a little
when you
bit.
do that, does that create class variables or local variables, or what are those stored as when you invoke the constructor and they're created? What are they created as in the main? Because they're stored in the main, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a question. Very good question. Let's take a look here. Is it the main function? Is it main is a driver? Is it over here? We call new. This is a default constructor. Is it? And you remember we said there are two types of storage. One is called stack memory. Is it? One is a heap memory. Heap memory. Is it? And the T1 is a variable. Is it? This is local variable. Local variable. And this local variable T1 only visible in main. Okay, only visible in main. No other method can. So here is the main part. So it's only visible in main T1. And if you just declare, if you don't do new something, the T1 is not associated with anything, is it? But over here, you call new time. So this is at 12 a.m. created, is it? This is a time object. You call this new, and the constructor is default constructor. Constructor invoked. Is it? So in heap, it will find the amount of memory. So based on its internal data, is it? Suppose 40 bytes, suppose probably 100 bytes of memory allocated for this specific object, is it? And then because you assign to T1, so T1 refer to this memory location, refer to this specific time object. That makes sense now? And then let's see T2. T2, the same thing. T2 is also in main. Is it only visible in main? But it's associated with 8:30 a.m. time object. Is it? And the T2 will refer to that memory location. So it's, we said a reference. So T2 is a reference of that object. T1 is also a reference of that object. That makes sense now?
Yeah, I was just curious the different places that you were able to call it. I guess it kind of threw me for a loop because it's associated with the constructor, which is in the other class, but when it's created, it can only be referenced in the main class.
Oh, don't get that confused.
Right.
In the other class, that time.java, that file defines the time class. It just, class is a blueprint. It doesn't exist. You can think it kind of like that. Only when you call new, is it? This main is like the Ford manufacturer, the plant, the factory, is it? So now in main, it's the T1 is called new time. Okay, so on the assembly line, this 12 a.m. object is created. And then the 8:30 a.m., that project also created. And then you give each of this object a name. You call it T1 and T2. That makes sense? It has nothing to do with, you mean the other classes constructor. No. Don't get that confused.
Thanks for explaining that.
Okay, so this clear? Clear your question?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Okay, then over here, let me further explain. Is that T1? T1 is a time object. So then if I call like system.out.print, is it? I call T1 dot get hour. What do you think it will output in this case? If I call the system.print, what will it output?
Whatever the default hour is.
Yeah, what is that value? The default
8.
value. The default is 8.
Oh no, I don't know.
Just check.
Default.
It's 12. Is it? You remember it's 12. The default one is 12. Is it? So be careful, okay, here. This get hour, this is instance method. So you must have an instance. So T1 is a time instance. That's why you can call T1 dot get hour. So this get hour belongs to T1. Okay, it's T1's. So here you cannot call time dot get hour. This is wrong. You can never do that because get hour is instance method. So it must be associated with an instance. Okay, so that you must get clear. But you see here, get a number, not time, is it? That's a class method because it's static defined, is it? That's why over here, this is not an instance, not an instance. Is it? It's a class name, is it? So you can invoke class method with class name. Of course, you can also apply instance on it. It will give you the same result. But generally, when we use class method, we just use the class name, okay? So be very careful the difference about this two. And then the same thing, is it over here, T2, and you call set time, is it? And why you can do this? Because set time is instance method. So this set time method you call is T2's, okay? It's not T1's. T1 also has its own set time method. So be careful here. And then you see here, T2, you can also call its get hour, is it? And here, this toString, is it? The first toString, it is T1's. The second toString, it's T2's. Okay, so make sure of the ownership because those are instance methods. They have the ownership. Okay, then next, let's see. Private versus public, is it? And here you call those methods get, set, whatever, toString, is it? Why you can call this, is it? And this class is external to the time class, is it? They are not in the same one, is it? So it's external, is it, regarding, so this also serves like a client, is it? But did you see it can directly call those methods, is it? That's because those instance methods accessible. It's accessible in this main, in this other class, is it? That's because they are public. Public means everybody can access that method. Okay, that method. So this is legal. So you can view kind of like, okay, so I have that time class. Is it? I have private, I have public. Is it? The public, I have set time. Is it method? Because it's a public, so external can access whatever. Is it? That's why we always say, okay, those provide interface. Provide interface. So provide the interface for external class to access, is it? And then let's see, what does it mean private? Is it those instance variable like the m hour, is it m minute? They are private, is it? They're private. Okay, then here if you said, okay, system.out.print, I want to do t1 dot m hour, then this is wrong. That's not accessible here. It's not because this is private, and this class versus that class, it's outside, it's external. You cannot access it. Okay, unless you change its visibility to public. Okay, so that's what it means, private. So now you understand that's what we call information hiding, encapsulation. Encapsulate what? Over here in main, you cannot see it. Okay, I don't want to, I want to protect it. I just provide a certain interface for you to do something. Is it so that you have fully control? Is it? This is kind of like, you can also understand like this, like your furniture in your house. Is it? Those belongs to your house. Is it? And your window, your house window, is it? The window is open, is it? But you may say, okay, like for my bed, I don't want my bed anyone else can see it, is it? So you don't expose, you don't provide a method to see, oh, view bed. You don't provide this method, then no external can see your bed. But your house is a Christmas tree. Normally you want people to see, is it? Then in your class, you can define a method called view Christmas tree, is it? So then this all regarding this encapsulation is you as a class designer, then you can control, okay, what kind of features regarding your instance variable you want to expose or you don't want to expose. You may want to just provide get method. You don't want to provide a set. Then that means you don't want the client to change it, but you will allow them to view it. Okay, so that's the key point here about public versus private. Okay, so make sure to understand this. And what next? Let's see. We have this T1 and T2 objects, is it? And here we have a function called swap, time copy version function. Okay, what does this function do? And then we plug in T1 and T2, okay? And here we have another function called check pass primary value function. And this method just plug in some integer value, okay? And we also have another method called check pass object, and then we plug in a time object. Now let's first take a look those methods. Let's first take a look at the simplest case, okay? If you take a close look, all this method, is it? It's what? It's class method. They don't have any object to use it. Okay, that's why in main you just go ahead to use it. You don't need objects, okay? Okay, and then let's see the first one, check pass primary value. Is it? This method quite simple. Return type is void. Parameter is a primary value. Is it? It's a scalar basically here in this case. That's an integer I. Okay, and then what this method try to change whatever this guy value is to negative 100. Okay, then let's see what will that happen. Is it? And then in our main, what do we call? In main, x is 100. Is it? Where is that? Okay, it's here. Is it? We are talking about this method. Is it? Okay, so if we draw, so this is our main method. Is it? We have that x is 100. Is it in main? Okay, and this is heap. Is it? And we call this method. So this is in main. And then we call check pass primary. Is it anyway? And it has the parameter is I. Is it? This is the parameter. Okay, and then this parameter will also have this 100 value. Is it? When you pass in that value 100. But then you said, okay, I change it to negative 100. So I then don't have 100, has negative 100. Is it? And if you take a look, has x ever be changed? No. Is it? X still has that 100. That's why if we go back, where is it? If we go back here, write output, you still have 100 because x never get changed. Okay, so that's this case. And then let's take a look at this. Check pass object. Where that is? Okay, over here. Okay, check pass object. Okay, let's see. So we have the main. Is it mean we have T1? T1 is created in heap. So this is stack. Is it? So heap, we have T1 is 12, suppose. Is it AM? So T1 referred to here. Then we have this check pass object. Is it? And its parameter is T. Is it? The parameter T, and you call it. You call check pass object. You plug in T1. Is it? You plug in T1. So this T will this we also said Java is only pass by value. Is it? In this case, what is the value? The value is reference of T1. So this T also points to this specific object, 12 AM. Okay, then you call set time. This set time happens on who? On this reference. Is it? So it will change it to 10:30 PM. Okay, so both T and T1 point to this memory location. As a memory location, then the contents get changed. That's why when you do system.print, you print T1. You print T1. What will it output? It will output 10:30. Is it? This time it changed. It changed. Why? Because it is, even though it's passed by value, but here the value is a reference. Both point to this same heap memory. Okay, so it does happen. Okay, so that's this case. If I cross this out, and if I uncomment those, and change this to time, then what will happen? Is it? Okay, you can redraw this. So This is in main. You have that T1, is it? What T1 is at 12 a.m. Point to here, is it? And then you call this check pass object T1, is it? T1. And here is that check pass object T, is it? And this T also pointed to this guy, is it? Then let's take a look here. You say, oh, I have temp, is it? And this is that temp. And temp, you have new. And this time it's called new time, is it? At 11:59 p.m. It's a new object, is it? And then you said, okay, I let T point to this. Is it? You assign temp to T. So T is going to point to that. Then you return who? You return this guy. That's what you return. Is it? If you don't assign to anyone, then just think about T1 point to where? Has ever T1 be changed? No. T1 still point to this 12 a.m. Is it point to? And if I don't have this as return, I just have it as void. And I don't have this return. So I just assign it. Then just think about this temp. Is it? This temp, it's a scope. What is scope? The scope is start at here, ends at the end of the function. So it's terminates when the method check pass object method ends. When it ends, is it that object's lifetime also ends because that variable no more available. Because later after we learn another data structure stack, we will see this whole thing is going to be out of this runtime stack. If it's out of time runtime stack, this block is just left in heap. Is it? So basically this object is abandoned. Is abandoned. Okay, and if you have a lot of this kind of thing, a lot of object will be abandoned. And no variable reference to those abandoned object. Is it? But Java has a nice thing, it's called garbage collection. Is it? So garbage collection will take care of that. Okay, so that's just some side notes, just some concepts. Make sure you get them clear, especially for cybersecurity students. Okay, those very important. Okay, so that's a check pass object. Then let's take a look at the other function. Okay, let's take a look at the swap. Is it this swap function? This swap function, it has two time object. Is it? Then in main, what we call is we call swap time copy version. We pass in T1 to T2. Is it? What we hope is T1 get T2's time and T2 get T1's time. That's what your hope is it? So let's see. So this is in stack. Is it? This is in heap. Is it? So in stack we have that main. Is it main? Then you have T1, you have T2. Is it? And T1 is 12 a.m. T2, I remember it's 8:30 a.m. Is it? That's T1, T2. Okay, then you call this a swap. Anyway, this function, is it? And it has CPT1 and CPT2. Is it? And the CPT1, you make it reference to T1, and the CPT2, you plug in with T2, is it? So then the drawing is like this, is it? So CPT1 refer to 12, and the CPT2 refer 8:30, is it? Okay, then you say in this method I have the temp. This temp initially refer to where? Refer to here. Is it? And then you say, okay, CPT1 point to CPT2. Okay, CPT1 now doesn't point to here anymore. It point to 8:30. Is it? CPT2 point to where? Okay, it's point to temp. So it's going to point 12. Is it? But if you take a look, has T1 to T2 ever changed to their arrow? No change. Is it? So have you achieved the swapping those two objects, the purpose, your goal? No. Is it? So that won't happen, okay? So be very careful about all these discussions. Okay, so that's why over here we said, if you call swap, and then if you call there to string, is it? You will see it's never get swapped, is it? And the check object, and previously I already explained, is it? But that's a different story. The T1 data get changed. That's because T1 also that point to the same object, is it? So the reference, so everything you worked is on that object, okay? So if you do want to swap, if you use array, then it's going to be different story, is it? So if you take a look here, we have this two array, array 1 and array 2, is it? And then you assign T1, T2 to it. Then you call this a swap function, is it? So let's see. Let's go back to take a look. This is swap. So this time, this is swap. Oh, not this one. This time, let's take a look. This is swap function. This time you have two array, is it? Okay. So in this case, this is main, is it? And over here we have heap memory, is it? So in main we have T1, we also have T2, is it? T1, T2. And I forgot the T array 1, T array 1, and the T array 2, is it? Sub-0 and sub-0, is it? And when you have this T array 1, T array 2, because you call new time sub 1, is it? So you create a array object, is it? So each of it is going to refer to the corresponding array element, is it? Then you have sub-0, sub-0, is it? And then you assign the first one. So this is 12 a.m. You assign this guy point to here, is it? And so T1 point to here. And then I have T2, 8:30 point here. So the array, second array point to 8:30, is it? That's what happened, okay? Then you have this swap, is it? PT1 and PT2, is it? So PT1 corresponding to what? PT1 corresponding to this, PT2 corresponding to this, is it? That's PT1 and PT2, okay? PT1 and PT2. And then what you did within it, you have temp. Temp initially pointed to where? Pointed to this guy. That's what a temp pointed to, is it? The first one, array element, is it? Then you said, okay, PT1 pointed to where? Okay, PT1 pointed to PT1 point to PT2, is it? So PT1, then you make it point to, you make it point to, so PT1 point to whatever here it pointed to. So this will change, is it? This will change to here. Is it? Whatever it point to. And the other guy will point to what? So it will also change to point to here. Is it? So it is through array. So the array, the corresponding element, it will change where it point to. Is it where it point to? That's how then, if we go back, is it if we go equal, if you call, then of course this is going to change because the corresponding array element, is it, they change to reference different object. That's how this will work, okay? Because it's the second level, okay? So we just needed to be careful about all of this subtle difference. And then next, let's see the next part. What does this mean? Is it, so then in this case, so we have, so this is in main, is it? And stack, this is a heap, is it? So this is 12 a.m. This is 8:30 a.m. So T1 initially point to here, T2 point to 8:30, is it? And you then said, okay, T1 equals to T2. What does that mean? That means T1 point to 8:30. Is it 8:30? Is it? And so in this case, what you get to this two print, you will have the same result, is it? And then you said T1 set hour. Well, this will be changed. This will be changed to 11. Is it 11? So when you get T1, T2, then both will have 11 output because basically after you do this, so this is called shallow copy. Shallow copy. You make both reference to the same place, okay? So that's why T1, T2 will get the same output, okay? And also over here, if I call time dot get number of time, how many you will have? Then you will have 2. Is it because you have T1, you also have T2, 2 object created? Because each time if you call the constructor, class variable will be incremented by 1. So that's how this works. Okay, so that's the general idea about this example, the time class. We kind of finish the time example. And do you have any questions regarding the time example?
I have a quick one, but it
Yeah,
might be kind
please.
of hard for me to explain. So when you do that constructor,
Hold on. Yeah, please.
You can, if you want to put it back on your screen, that might be easier
Oh,
for me
okay.
to help explain.
Which file?
You can do the main.
The main, this one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, which part?
So where it says time, T2 equals new time 8, 30,
Yeah.
A.
Yeah.
So that's 3 different things it's assigning to that T2 variable in the constructor, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So if I want to just reference 30 and use T2's value of 30, how would I reference that value?
Oh, very good question. Yeah. You remember in T2, we have, so let me go back. Let me see if I can bring that. Can you all see this part? The new screen, the time. Can you see the time class? Right now, I changed not to the main. I changed to the second class. Did all of you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you see the time class, is it? You remember here? That's a very good question, is it? We have those get method, is it? We have get hour, get minute, get AM, PM, is it? And what it does, it returns the corresponding hour, minute, and AM, PM, is it? Okay, that's regarding the time class. And then let's go back to, first let me click. Then go back to main, is it? That's a very good question. Okay, so T2. Yeah, because you bring a very good question. How do I know an hour? Because you cannot call T2 data M hour because it's encapsulated, is it? So that's why we have those get method. So all we call it just getter, is it? So over here you just call T2 dot.
So that's because the instance variables are private, but the methods are public.
Very good. You got it. Very good. Exactly. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. That's very good. A very good discussion. Yeah. Now it's clear, is it?
Yes.
Now you see why it's private, is it?
Yes.
You understand it. Very good. Any other questions?
The only reason I was really asking is because on the quiz, the card class that we're supposed to create.
Yeah.
We're supposed to create a what is it? Sorry, let me check real quick. We're supposed to create a get suit method, but it doesn't say anything about a get face method. But I guess we would have to have a get face method in order to have the compare function. Yeah,
exactly. Oh no, the compare function is also, I remember, it's also defined as a member instance method. Okay, so let's go back. Very good question. Okay, so over here, like the time, is it the time? For the time, suppose over here you want to compare with another card, another time. Compare with other time. A very good question, is it? So you want to compare who is greater, as I suppose. Then you can provide a method called public, normally we return Boolean. Is it Boolean? And you can call it compare. Okay, I will just skip that word. And then the parameter is t. Is it? And assuming here we just care about hour, we just use hour to compare. Okay, then what you can do is you just return what? This hour less or equal than t dot m hour. You can write a method called compare. Okay, and this method returns some value, is it? But this method, its parameter is a time object, is it? Okay, so then you see here we have this m hour. This m hour is object itself. Object, who is object cell? Basically in Java, there is a keyword called this. We just never write this. It's called this. This dot m hour. And this is the second t dot m. This is the other object. Other object. Okay, so you see in this, because this is the instance method. This is also a very good example to show, is it? And here you see I call t dot. Here I call t dot m hour. Why this is legal? Anyone knows the answer? Why over here is legal? Why in main I cannot do that t1 dot m hour? Anyone knows the answer? Or you can try. Just think about it, think it really hard. You can draw, is it? Because this is a time class, is it? Time class. And because they are all in this same block, is it? So here we have this compare method, is it? This compare, definitely it can access whatever is within the same block, is it? And the main is here. Mean is outside. Can it access private? Of course not. Is it? So that's why. Okay, that's because over here you can access because it's within this class definition itself, because this is time class time definition. Is it? Everything here is within this definition. And of course, this is legal. This is allowed. But over here, it's referred to object cell. So basically, all of this you can add. You can try this dot, this dot. So all this MR belongs to this, belongs to object. Okay. Then let's get back. You may say, who is this? That's weird, is it? Let's go back here. Okay, so if I here T1 dot to string, okay, and in that to string we also have that MR, this dot MR. Then in this case, who is this? T1 is this. Okay, then here you have T2 dot to string, is it? And for that method, it has this dot MR. Who is this? Then it's T2. So it depends on who the owner is. Okay, the owner can be T1, can be T2, then this can be T1, can be T2. So it means object itself. That makes sense? And if I call here T2 dot compare with T1, is it? Then who is T? That compare method, when I define, I have time T, is it? So is T1 T or T2 is T? Who is T? When you plug in, so here I plug in, who is T? T1 or T2? Who is this in that compare method? So here my question is, oh, sorry. Who is this? Who is T? So if I give you multiple choice, T1, T2, T1, T2, regarding the compare method, regarding this compare method, who is this? T1 or T2?
It'd be T1.
This is T1. I call
I'm just taking
T2
a
dot
shot.
compare. I call T2 dot compare.
Okay.
So who is this? Who is the owner of this compare method?
T2.
T2, yeah. This is this. Always refer to owner. Then who is this? T2 is owner. Then who is this? T2, okay. T2, is it? Because this compare belongs to T2.
Then
So
what's T1's role in being in the parentheses?
yeah, T1's role is parameter. That makes sense now? T1 is not owner. If you call T1 dot compare and you plug in T2, then this is T1, T is T2. Okay, it's the owner. The compare, the method has owner. Okay, who is this? Who is owner? Who is this? That makes sense now? Does this make sense now? No?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'll be able to use what you've explained here to try and figure it out in my own code.
Okay, yeah. We can.
Definitely have a better understanding now than I did. So.
Okay, very good. Okay, and I don't think we should have more new material today. Okay, so any other questions? That's all very good, very nice. Today we have a lot of interaction. Okay, I just hope like everyone can get involved. Okay, very good. Any other question? No more question? Then I will see you all tomorrow. Okay, bye.
Nice day.